on the East Coast. My name is Anna Ehrman. I'm the Director of Strategic Outreach and Communications here at VA OSDBU. Joining me are two of my fantastic team members, Wendy Bray, who said hello to you earlier, and Curtis Brandon. Wendy and Curtis are helping with conducting this session. They are looking for your questions. Please put questions in the Q&A section, and some of them they'll be able to answer on the fly. Some of them they will interrupt me if they're relevant to whatever it is I'm talking to, and some of them will leave to the end if they're more general or more tangential kind of questions. So today's, we have about an hour to cover one of my favorite things in the world, market research using ad hoc report data. And I'm not kidding, by the way. And we'll be using SAM.Gov, which is one of the government systems of record. It is free. It is available to everybody. And this is our second time touching, actually second time touching SAM. We had another webinar in this market research series where we covered the basics. We covered how to create searches, follow opportunities, and find static reports. Today we'll be doing the advanced version. And just as the previous version that was available and is available on YouTube, this one will be loaded on YouTube as well. So if you're listening to this, if you registered, you are going to get a copy of the slides, and you will be able to access the recording of the session for future reference. For now, if you have comments and want to introduce yourselves, please use the chat to say hi to everybody. If you have questions, please use the Q&A segment. And the way to get to Q&A, if it's not showing up on your screen already, then you could click the little ellipsis, the 3 dots, and you'll find Q&A. And if you still can't find it, then put something in chat, and Wendy and Curtis will help you out. So what we're going to do today, because the topic is kind of dense, and I want to make sure that the information is not only heard, but understood and then usable to you, is we're going to go through the PowerPoint presentation, which will lay out the steps, and then we'll walk through it live. And I may be asking to see if you're awake. I may be asking you guys to put in a NAICS code or a keyword or something like that. So Curtis and Wendy, let me know if at any point I need to stop to address a question. I'll also try to take a breath and, you know, get a sip of tea as we go along.
Roger that.
Thank you. All right. So what we're going to cover today, it's not a lot, but it's down deep. So we'll be talking about searching opportunities, creating ad hoc reports, understanding what the criteria are for those reports, and then looking at reviewing the dashboard where you could find all of the reports that you created and have been shared with you, and then you could also print them or download them for future use. Starting place, I'm not going to spend too much time here. These are the SAM reference places. We will go to SAM.Gov. I will have to log in just like you have to log in. And there are some other links for reference to your workspace, to the help information, and to the standard reports awards, which we will not cover today. That was covered in the last session. So I am going to walk you through, and this is the slides that you will get. So you will have a copy of this in case you get lost, in case you forget a step, you'll have access to all of this. So the first thing we're going to do is we will log in to SAM, and my view may look slightly different than yours, at least initially, because I will be using my government login, but at the end, the reporting function will be exactly the same. So after signing in, we'll go to the data bank section. We'll find the data bank, which we have seen before when we looked at the standard reports. So the default is that standard reports are selected by the radio button. And then if you scroll down on this page, you'll start seeing all the standard reports. But we will not do that. We'll do something else. We will check the radio button for ad hoc reports. And then As you scroll down on the page, you will see slightly different information. So imagine that the ad hoc button is selected, and then as you scroll down, you'll be able to see award IDV information and other transaction information reports. The blue lines, the blue text here is what you will be able to click on, and which is what we will click on today when I show you this live, and work with the reports. We will focus on award IDV. We will not do other transactions, just for curiosity's sake. Other transactions are contracts, usually for research and development and prototyping, that some federal agencies have the authority to execute. VA does not have OTA, other transaction authority funding. We do not do other transactions. Think of Department of Defense, HHS, NASA, ones that are doing a lot of science, advanced research, prototyping. So if that's your line of business, you may want to look at OTA, but that's not really the focus of today. So with the advanced IDV report, when you click on that blue line, the text, you'll come to the next screen, which will be actually creating the reports. So let's pretend to create one, and then we'll create one for real. Before we do that, let me check in. Are there any questions or anything that I've covered so far?
Hey, Anna, we currently don't have any questions, but I do want to ask the audience if they are able to see your screen. Because I did see, I think, one question that was saying that they're not able to see it. So if I can get a yes. Okay, perfect. Yes. Somebody said they love dogs, Anna. We love dogs too. I'm turning it back over to you.
Somebody had a hand raised, and I think Underwood, it scrolled back. So please type in your question. Oh, 2 people. All right, type your questions. All right, so interrupt me if they do come in and type. Okay, so the ad hoc report is still right. You should be able to see a photo of a dog. And now we're going to the report. All right. So when you get to the report screen, when you click on the blue screen, blue award IDV report line, you'll see something that looks like this. Yours will look slightly different. It will be a blank page, mostly blank page, but there will be a big red create button. As you start to add reports, the reports that you've created previously will show up in this list. So mine will today look even different because I have created a couple of other reports since I did the screenshot. So there will be more information, but we don't care about that right now. What we do care about is the create button. And when you click on that, it'll allow you to walk through the steps here. So create, you put the mouse down to new report, and then report builder. We don't want the blank report. That one is kind of difficult to maneuver. That's even more advanced than we're ready for today. When you click on report builder, you will get this screen, which looks a little bit complicated and very, very long. And it's divided into these 8 sections. And what we're going to do with the rest of our time today is figure out how these 8 sections work. And you have this as a cheat sheet to come back to later. So the first set of elements we need is a date signed. So these ad hoc reports are also known sometimes as CARs, contract action reports. They are bottom-up federal obligations contract action reporting system, which means anytime a contract officer, contract specialist, anybody with the access to the back end, whenever they do something to a contract, they have to report it, which means that if there's a contract award, then later there's a modification, then there's a payment, then there may be another payment, then there may be an adjustment with some defunding, and then the closeout. Each one of those is a line item. And the reason I'm telling you this now is you will get, first of all, you'll get more than one line item per contract, which means you'll get a lot of incremental details. And the reason we need to know this right up front is the dates signed, those are the dates that that line item is signed. So let's say we're in year 3 of the contract, and I am putting in my second payment for that year. So it's year 3, the second payment for the year. So I've at least had, 2 payments a year. So we're on like line item 6 or 7. But I'm putting in today's date, not when the contract was signed, not when it was originally awarded, but the date that that transaction has taken place. So, for example, if you want all the dates, if you put in fiscal year 2024, so starting October 1, 2023 through today, it'll be any contract that had any action on it happening within this year, regardless of when it was awarded. Sometimes you even have super old contracts because there could be litigation, there could be closeout, there could be final calculations for payment of late fees or anything like that. So sometimes those last for several years after the contract expiration. Most of the time, not a concern, but I want you to understand what goes into the bulk of this data set. So you'll want to put in usually I'd say up to 3 years of information. You do need start and end. Sometimes people will want to put in more than that. I believe you could put in as much as 11 years. And the system, the verification here will walk you through how far forward or how far back you can go. And I'll show you how that works. It's really cool, actually. You don't need to put in the modified dates. It doesn't really matter. You want to have all the information regardless of the mods. So we'll skip that. Just ignore it. There's plenty of data entry without that. Then you will be able to select the attributes, or as I've labeled them here above, those are the columns for your report. So when you visualize the data set, when it finally appears on the spreadsheet, which you've spent so much time working on, the attributes that you select here will be used to create the columns for your data. And we'll go into the details here. Each of these is a little folder. So those have components. So when we double click on the folder, you'll be able to see what those components are. So business size selection, for example, the one element I pick from here is the contracting officer determination of whether or not the awardee is a small business. So if you want to filter by things that are small businesses, that's an easy way to do it without having to look up the socioeconomic status. We will cover some of the more common elements. I don't want to necessarily definitively record what those are, but I'm just giving you some examples of what those elements are. So here's an example of the size, the funding department and agency. So it could be within Department of Veterans Affairs. The agency may be Veterans Health Administration. IDV type, which is indefinite delivery vehicle. So is it a contract vehicle or not? And is the vendor an 8A? So we want to know if the awardee was in the 8A program or not, and then the NAICS code. That's just a sample of the type of things that you can search for. And I'll show you a plethora of elements to pick from. The next setup criteria will go down, and this is on the list, right? This is number 6. Those are the metrics. I really encourage you to understand these. Not all dollars mean the same thing. So here's my cheat sheet. Dollars obligated, that's the current obligation, which means that, as I mentioned before, each of these is a line item as of whenever that contract related record is being created. So if I'm making a payment to a vendor, the dollars obligated would be how much is that payment. If I am changing the address or the due date, the obligation will be 0 because with that action, I'm obligating nothing. Sometimes maybe the contract had a high ceiling, a high potential value, but we decided that we don't need as many widgets, so I am deobligating. I'm taking money off of that contract. Doesn't mean I am asking the vendor to pay me back. It's just that we thought we may need 1,000, so I asked for funding for 1,000, but we ended up ordering 500. So I am returning that potential money back to the treasury. So deobligating from a contract, which means it's no longer obligated or no longer associated with that contract. So that's very incremental. I like to go by the dollars obligated because it's very specific actual dollars that were either added to or taken away from a requirement. Base and all options, that's the ceiling value. That's that potential high dollar. So if we think we may need as many as 1,000 widgets, I better ask for funding for 1,000 widgets. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go back to my boss and ask for more money. And that's not a good exercise. Base, oops, it's base and exercise, not based. Base and exercise is how much was spent to date. So if I am paying for 100 widgets today and I already paid for 100 earlier, this should have 200. This one, if I have to be honest with you, is not that consistent. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not. I do not rely on base and exercise value. It's an interesting element to include. I almost never do. And the number of actions is how many times did something happen that that caused this report to be generated. So if how many transactions were with respect to a specific contract, or how many transactions were that match my criteria, that match the elements that we selected. So those are all going to appear in the columns, right? All of the elements we talked about before that define the requirement, as well as the dollars and the numbers here. The other thing we can do, and I encourage you to do it, otherwise the data sets get unwieldy, is to create your filters or to qualify the attributes. That's our going down the list that appeared on the left here. That's number 7. And qualify means to filter, which means that when you select things, only the things that you select will show up. For example, if I want to know all the contracts in NAICS code 541519 at the VA in year 2024, I will want to select the attributes that have the right NAICS code and the right year. But I want to filter it so only items at VA will show up on my search. Otherwise, I will get every single agency with that NAICS code, and I don't want to do that because that's too many items. And it does limit me the search to, I believe, 30,000 line items. And believe it or not, I have run out of room on multiple occasions. So you'll want to be really smart about filtering. If your data set is really large, we can talk about other strategies. At a previous agency where I needed literally every single transaction, I had to split a report by 3-month increments in order to get all the elements. That is not pleasant. That's a lot of work. It can be done, but I recommend the filter function if possible. So here's how you create your filters or qualify attributes. So I'll show you a completed one, and then I will show you how to do it. And it's until you exercise it, until you try it. And by the way, you can't break the system. You could break a search or create a bad search that doesn't work and start over, but really you've lost like 20 minutes. So feel free to break things and try things. So when you, let's say you choose to qualify or filter by one of these, you select it, or you double click on it, and it'll pop up in this window to the right. And then you'll see, let's say I wanted to qualify by vendor type, service disabled, veteran owned. We translate it to English, it means, do I want to filter by service disabled, veteran owned businesses? And here I said yes, so I want to filter. So that means my results will only include where the vendor is an SDV OSB company. Now here's one where I haven't selected yet. So this is how we do it. Before you make the choices, funding department name, right? So if I wanted to only include VA, I would click on qualify or select, and select is the one that brings up a list. And then everything that is form, that's in red, you'll be able to click on that. And it allows you to, so if you qualify, it's fill in the blank. That means you have to type in exactly what you want. If you select, it brings up a menu and you click on it, and then you're able to choose, in this case, the department name. So you select it, you click select, then it brings up the pop-up box, and then you click on the value, and you'll be able to choose it. So I will show you live exactly what that looks like. And then the last element here. I just saw pop up that SAM isn't working right now. So I'm not doing it on SAM. Hopefully we'll be able to do it on SAM. If not, we'll reschedule it. So let's finish this before you get me all nervous. So you could also qualify by the metrics, which means filter by the dollars. For example, there's some zero value line items that you may not want to see, or total value or total options. For example, if you only want to look at contracts that are over $5 million, you can. To be perfectly honest, I'm taking off my VA Govy hat and putting on my market research professional hat. I haven't had good luck with it. I always get an error if I do this. So I try not to touch qualifying metrics if I could avoid it at all costs. But you know, the system is undergoing continuous and constant improvement. So you could certainly try and do that. But I recommend avoiding it because there's plenty of other ways to get to the good data. All right, so the last thing you want to do, report message name, change it, be as specific as possible, because you will probably want to create multiple reports. So when you select a name, and then I know it says run report, but don't worry about it. You'll be able to run that report. The first time you save it, it'll give you an option to save it, then it'll come back and it'll look the same. And also when you select a report from the list, you have to open it. It'll go through all these same steps that we just went through, but you don't have to add it again. You'll just scroll all the way through it because it's been pre-populated, and then you'll be able to run the report. But run the report is always at the end of this 7-step process. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna try to jump to Sam now and see if we can do this live. But before I do, are there any questions?
Hey, Anna, we did have a few questions. One of them is what you're getting ready to do now. Some people might have had a little issue following along from the PowerPoint presentation. So I did let them know that you're getting ready to show them in the live session. There was a question about what are widgets?
Oh, a widget is, that's a law school term for a thing. It could be, you know, a face mask. It could be anything you want. It's just an example of an item. So think widget is item.
Thank you. And then in the Q&A, someone was trying to follow along with you, and they said that they received their ad hoc report is coming up as an error.
Okay. So I don't know that we'll have time to troubleshoot them, but depending on the error, if we have time at the end, we could look at it. But depending on the error, it may have been that you put in too much information so that it's pulling, that it's unable to generate, or you didn't filter it enough, or on the other hand, you made it so restrictive that there's no results that are available.
Thank you.
But yeah, if we don't have time to get to it, send a screenshot to our mailbox, and we'll see if we could identify and help out.
And I put our mailbox in the chat.
Thank you. All right. Are there other questions?
Yes, there was a question earlier in the chat that said, what does IDV mean when you were going through the process?
Okay. IDV, yes. So let me show you something else. There should be, I think there's a glossary here. Somewhere here. I'm not going to waste your time on it. IDV is indefinite delivery vehicle. So those are multiple award contracts, IDIQ contracts, GWACs, if you've ever heard of those things. Those are contracts like, for example, GSA Schedule or OASIS or T4NG, where the requirement is part of a larger contract with multiple awards. Sometimes you will want to know, depending where you are in your business development and market research journey, you may want to know if a contract is part of that larger buy or if it is a standalone.
Thank you. And the last question is, do you need or do the business needs to be registered in SAM to pull these reports that you're showing us today?
So this report does require registration. Actually, most of what we did, even with the standard report, requires registration. So yes, so I did sign in. As you probably saw me struggling to put my my code in because it appeared on a different screen. So here we are. This is going to look different because I'm logged in with the Govy thing, so don't worry about that. We're going to go to the data bank, and this is going to look exactly the same for me as for you. Is this big enough on your screens, or do I need to make this bigger? Somebody
zoom in just a little bit more.
Okay. I don't want to lose the.
It's good. Thank you.
Right. All right. Excellent. Okay. So use the PowerPoint as a reference, as a cheat sheet later, because we're going to walk through this. And when I explain it, you'll be able to use that kind of to refer to and refresh your memory. So this is the live version of what I previewed. So we're going to choose the ad hoc report. And it just jumps back to the top. But when you click on the ad hoc report, you scroll down and you'll see award IDV information. Oh no. Oh no. Let's try this again. Data bank. This is going to be a much shorter webinar if we can't do what I need. Ad hoc report. Award IDV information. Huh. Well, this is unfortunate. All right, I'm going to give it a second. Great. Maybe we overloaded the system. Oh my goodness. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to try it again, but we may have to reschedule this because one thing I cannot predict is other government agencies' data sets. Yeah, so that's not going to work. Oh my goodness. All right, so we will definitely reschedule this. I am sorry for the inadvertent error, which I do not know how to.
Somebody said try to log out and then log back in. Although I think that we've had quite a few people that said they've had issues too trying to access data bank.
You know what? Let me try Firefox or Chrome. I'm going to try it on Chrome.
Okay, because Julie said she had the same earlier, but she logged in fine.
All right, this is exciting. Not in a good way, but exciting nonetheless.
Thank you, Julie. She said she was using Chrome.
All right, let's try this on Chrome.
Oh, somebody said this is the same in Chrome.
Okay, don't give me any more updates.
We're not going to jinx it, everyone. We're going to try Firefox and Chrome, and we're going to see how this goes today. I know, oh Lord.
This is very exciting. If not, I will pivot and we'll do some other things if folks are interested. All right, data bank, ad hoc. Fingers crossed. Oh, all right. I don't want to waste your guys' time. We're about half an hour in. So let me see What I can do in the interest of time is I could cover what these segments are, what the different attributes are. So when you do go in, you will be able to look through and select the right attributes. And we will reschedule this webinar probably for maybe beginning of March or something in the next couple of weeks. And hopefully SAM will work. This is the first time that happened. So let me walk through some of these attributes, and then I will try again, just to give it a few minutes. All right, so small business size selection, that is where the contracting officer's determination of size. And there are a couple of other things, but I'm giving you Anna's highlights based on my 15 years experience doing this, what we really should care about. Competition information, that is, was this, how this was competed, type of set aside, extent competed, whether it was set aside or not, whether it was simplified acquisition or not. The dates have to do with award date, sign date. Remember, spend a bit of time defining the sign dates. Also the expiration dates. There are a couple of things called expiration dates that are interesting. One is the current expiration, which means when this particular period of performance expires. There's also the ultimate completion or ultimate expiration date, and that is with all the options, all extensions, when the final thing is. That's the one you care about, because that's the one for procurement planning when we're trying to define when we need to have the recompete figured out by. So the ultimate completion date. The dates will also have the fiscal year, and that's useful. It's just a year, right? So it's not a lot of data, but if you're doing multi-year data pull, you will want that just as a data element to sort through. It'll help you filter things that happened in 23 versus 24 without looking at specific dates, because each item will have its own date, and you don't necessarily want to pick between February 1st and February 3rd and February 15th. You'll want to see what happened in FY24 versus FY21. Contract information will be the contract identification. That's the contract number, solicitation number. If it is a multiple award vehicle, it'll have that other multiple award number. Like if, for example, you have GSA or a multiple award schedule, it'll have your GSA number. Contract information, I don't think that has a lot of information in it. It's really hard to do it on the fly by memory without any references. So I don't remember the contract information. Contract marketing data, there's nothing in there. Department and agency information, that is contracting department and agency. There is also, what you can't see scrolling down, there's another folder that includes funding information. Sometimes the contracting agency and department is different than the funding agency and department. Funding is the most important one. That's your end user. That's who has the money budgeted and the requirements necessary, or the requirements that your work is necessary to perform on. Contracting, sometimes those are outsourced, or sometimes those are done by another office. You'll often see that with VA, work may be needed. Where did I see one? The work was performed in Arizona, but the contracting office was in like Mississippi. So sometimes the work, the contracting, that paperwork stuff and the market research and all of the contract technical stuff is done at a regional or at another level than the actual program office. You'll want to know that if the office you're selling to is different than the one that's doing the paperwork, and you'll need to do BD with both of them.
Hey, Anna, we do have a few questions in the chat in the Q&A.
All right, go for it.
One question from the Q&A is this process what we would do to find awarded prime contractor info?
Yes. So there is, I'm going to just try again. No. Yeah, so there is information farther down that has vendor information. It'll have that company's name, their UEI number, their address, their like legal name or doing business as name. It will also have a whole separate folder for the socioeconomic information. And the socioeconomic folder has 91 or 92 items. So it includes that's a true or false or yes or no kind of criteria. It will list all of the socioeconomic categories. And if you choose to have them displayed, it will have yes or no. So if, for example, you select women-owned small business, then it will be Y or N with respect to each line item if the awardee is women-owned small business. So you could select all of those. Also, because there's 91 things, it has other socioeconomic categories which you've never heard of, like different land grant colleges or community development corporations or veterinary institutions. Ignore most of those, but it will take some hunting and pecking to find the socioeconomic categories relevant to small businesses. The other thing I did not mention is that there's a search box here. So if you know exactly what you're looking for, you could put in terms in the search box and hit search. It is very temperamental. So if you're done with the search, you have to like backspace out of it and hit search again to clear it out. Otherwise, it'll kind of get stuck. The other category I didn't mention on here, the other folder, is the program product description or program description. I forget the term, but it has NAICS codes and NAICS descriptions, PSC codes and descriptions, and then my favorite field of all, description of requirement, which is as much of a narrative as they're going to let you put in here. So you will not get a full statement of work or PWS, but you will get a couple of lines. Sometimes it's just extend the date. Sometimes it talks about the specifics. NASA likes to put paragraphs about NASA on there for some reason. So you always see like big bulky things for NASA. But you can do some very interesting searches with that description of requirement if you select it. All right.
I have another question, Anna.
Yep,
They said,
go.
where did you go after selecting Ad-Hoc on the presentation?
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So after you select Ad-Hoc, this screen will expand, and as you scroll down, so imagine scrolling down this page, and it will have these two things to select from. I don't know if it'll let me go. Let me try. Sorry if I'm scrolling too fast for you guys. So let me try again. Data bank, Ad-Hoc. So I'm going to select Ad-Hoc, and then see, brought me up to the top again, which is weird. But then it has Ad-Hoc reports, and it has that award IDV or OTA, and we want award IDV. All right, one last time. I'm going to try it. It'd be funny if it shows up now.
Right choice to end.
Somebody said it's working now. I don't know how much time we have to delve into it, but we'll do our best. Have it open too many times. Everyone, all right. I don't know how many folks are on here, but if it's taking our cohort to bring down Sam, we've really got a problem. All right, so it let me in. You guys, it let me in. Okay, let's do this really quick. And I think if it's okay, Wendy, we could let this go a little bit past an hour.
Okay, that's fine. If everyone time permits. If it doesn't, this is being recorded, and we will send you out the link by tomorrow morning. You have the link, and then you can just go to our YouTube channel and scroll past this point right now to listen to the rest of the information if you cannot stay on past the 1 hour mark. Okay, back over to you, Anna.
Thank you. All right, so I appreciate everybody's patience with these challenging times. So this, if you've never done one before, this is going to be blank. None of it's going to be here. This just tells you the reports that I have created lately. They're not anything unpredictable. So what we're going to do is create a brand new one. And Curtis or Wendy, just interrupt me if you need me to pause or explain anything. So create new report, report builder. Shouldn't get too excited until I see the screen. All right, there we go. So here's the sections that we talked about that I walked you through that you could refer back to. So the dates I'm going to start with, let's do 10/1/2018. So because I put in technically the start of fiscal year 2019, see, it gives me now, it tells me that I could choose to go up to 2030. So I think it's 12 years. Obviously 2030 isn't going to do me much good because it's future. But if I do like 2010, now it changes to 2022. So you'll get the idea. So let's do, because I don't want that many results, I want it to be a quick search. I'm just going to do 2022 and then 9/30/2023. You could do it up to today's date. Chances are the data entry is kind of delayed. So you're not going to get up to the minute, but doesn't hurt to look. Again, I don't want too many results. I want the search to be pretty nimble for us. Search results. These are the things we talked about. I'm only going to select a couple because we talked through most of them. And you could, let's see, place of performance I didn't talk about. That's pretty self-explanatory. Product to service information. I'm telling you, that's my favorite one. So we want, so I double clicked on it and I'm going to put, there's a couple of ways you could do this. You could click on it and drag it over. That does not work. You could click on it and see the little arrow popped up. You could do that. You could also, NAICS code, you could double click on it and that does work. Product service code, double click on it. So remember, I'm building my columns. So what else do I want in these columns? Once you are in a folder, you have to click the little up arrow and it'll bring back all the other folders. So vendor information, vendor socioeconomic data, I'll show you in a second. Transaction information, this is that transaction. You could see what type of contract it was, when it was last modified, specific FAR requirements here. Not a fan of this one, but it's kind of, you know, nerdy, interesting. Let me show you the socioeconomic. So these are all the different socioeconomic categories that some agency by some legislation may have had to include. And there's a lot of them. I am being very ginger. I'm afraid of breaking the system. But at least that gives you the idea of how this functions. Okay, while that's thinking about loading, I'm going to add the metrics here. So dollars obligated, and we could do number of actions. Number of actions, how many times did something happen to that particular contract? Number of records is how many items they have on it, which I don't know where that's pulled from, so I don't know about that. Let's try request timed out. Yeah, this is still being very weird. Okay, so this may be the result set, but that's okay. We're just trying to figure out how this works. Let me show you the qualification of the filters. I think this is the most complicated part. So we want to filter by, let's say, the funding agency. So you double click, which is not working. All right, I'm going to click the arrow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's still being very ginger. All right. Let me see if we may not be able to do much here. Darn it. Okay. So this may or may not work. And then we're not going to qualify because I don't want to borrow trouble. And then I'm going to name this report. So February 13th class, and we will run this training again. So because this is suboptimal. I'm going to save this report. And it timed us out, so this is not good. The other thing I want to highlight while we're on this screen, don't worry about that, but that may also explain why somebody got an error earlier in the presentation. So you do not want to use the browser's back and forward buttons. You'll want to use the SAM back and forward buttons. Otherwise, it'll kick you back out to the registration page. And you could go back to my reports, which is also not going to work. All right, I think I am officially giving up on SAM.Gov for today. And I will be happy to answer any market research questions, whether it's something we covered today or not, because we do have about 14 minutes left, and I want to make the most of it for you guys. So yeah, let me know, Curtis, Wendy, if there's anything else that we could actually be helpful with today.
Hey, Anna, we got one question I see. Somebody asked, what would be the best selection for forecasting for 2024 or 2025 for charging stations?
All right, so forecasting for charging stations. So each agency does have a forecast. I don't know if charging stations are in the forecast. The best way to get to department forecasts is acquisition.gov. And there isn't one catch-all forecast for now. There's a couple of aggregators. GSA maintains a couple of agencies' forecasts, but you could find each one of them here. So you could look agency by agency. Another way, now with charging stations is a little bit difficult because charging stations is a newer requirement. So you're not going to see a lot of past charging station awards and them wanting new ones. You can get a little bit of that by looking at existing awards, by just figuring out which agencies are actually have started paying for it, have started buying charging stations. You should be able to do it with SAM when it works. You could also do it on USA spending. That may work today. Let's see. And the data set that you get from both is kind of similar. SAM is much more useful at the end if you get a good data set. That's why we want to customize it. But quick and dirty, USA spending will get us some. This spreadsheet that you'll be able to get here is not nearly as data rich as the one from SAM, but it is fast and it functions. So charging station, submit search. So we'll see, these are obviously the vendors that are selling it, and this could be charging station for cars, but it could also be like a mobile phone charging station. So we'll have to do more research on that. But you could download this and you'll get more idea of who are the contracts, or what are the contracts, who are the vendors. Interestingly, there are also grants for charging stations. So that's contract-based information. Because this is kind of a new requirement, and because I'm just thinking outside the box based on the example here, charging stations may be part of larger construction facilities requirements. So you may want to look at some of the construction bids that, or construction contracts and opportunities that include that, especially if they're calling for LEED, LEED certified or environmentally conscious or green design or things like that. You'll also want to talk to some of the vendors that are the general contractors, some of the large companies, to see where that's being sought. And you could also look at, this is real forecast. You could look at agencies' budget requests. Those are 2 and 3 years out for major requirements where they're asking Congress to appropriate and allocate the funding. Some of the major buys may include that. So with VA, it could be facilities, right? Building new hospitals, new clinics, and new administrative buildings. With my prior agency, Department of State, it was new embassy construction, major, that had the parking lot, the IT cabling, and all the physical security built in, so major requirements. So that's a really long way of answering that, what sounded like a simple question on first glance. Right. What else? What other questions are there?
Thank you. A question just came in. It says, seeking forecast opportunities for lodging support for VA. How do I look at them?
So, all right, so let's look at forecast. Now, VA's forecast is frankly not that great. There are better ones out there. We're working on it. Our forecast is in the process of being integrated with acquisition.gov. But for now, let's go to the one that we have. And this forecast is kind of really built. What the heck? Why did it not go to the actual forecast? All right. Let's go to forecast. Maybe they already deleted the old links.
Let me see.
Yeah. We're also, oh no, we're also changing our site. So that's, we had a different link for, all right. We'll be able to include the link to the VA forecast, but our forecast is
I put
not
it
that
in the
great.
chat, Anna.
Thank you. All right. So our site got updated on Friday, so we haven't, oops. So we haven't fixed it yet, but you put it in the chat for everybody. Thank you. All right. So here's the VA forecast. This is not a great forecast, but this is what we have. So entire VA FCO query. So you could do it that way. And you search, this is searching everything, which, you know, if you're more specific about our criteria, yeah, I wouldn't do that. So lodging, could search that way. And because lodging is usually not a major investment area, I don't know how much there is. So there's a couple actually. Okay. So here's lodging. And I could put that in the chat, I think. Where's my chat? So here's the lodging link directly. I think it'll do it, but it's easy enough to get to from the forecast. A couple of ways. So if, for example, I am a hotel and I'm looking for lodging opportunities, I could look in the forecast. I could also look at existing contracts that are expiring within 12 to 24 months. The other thing I can do is, I don't know if this is going to work, but we could search for, this is going back to the previous SAM training, we could search for the contracting opportunities domain for lodging, right? We could do federal organization, Veterans Affairs. And also we want to look at both active and inactive, because lodging could be something that is bought every year for, you know, we need hotels for a conference that happens once a year or once every 2 years, or, you know, temporary lodging because the, I don't know, the outpatient clinic is being redesigned and we need a couple of temporary solutions. So the reason I wanted to show you active and inactive, it gives you an idea of not only buying right now, but what has VA bought with this keyword, or you could do the same for NICS or PSC codes in the near past. One thing that the opportunity search has that any of the data sources, USA Spending or SAM, they won't have is all of the specific detailed information about those requirements. So I have no idea what this is, but let's see. This was December 2023. But what the opportunity listings themselves have is all of the attachments. So you will get a chance to look at the statement of work or performance work statement or any kind of documents here, and also all the contact information. So that's the contracting officer or contract specialist that bought it. The rest, all of this, NAICS code, PSC code, socioeconomic category, dates, agency information, that's available in those data analytical tools with the USA spending and the SAM reporting, but this is the way to get more details. You could also, if you get a data set from SAM or USA spending, you could take that contract number and search by that contract number in this SAM opportunities database. Remember to search for existing or active and inactive, and you may get, if the contract is not too old, you may get some of those documents for those contracts. That is really in the weeds. Special information for you guys since you missed out on the actual topic of what we're going to do today. Right. What other questions?
Next question, how to get on contract vehicles from the VA? Are there any name requirements?
So the vehicles, they are solicited just like individual contracts at certain intervals. So for example, the construction multiple award task order contracts or MATOCs for construction, those are vehicles. A vehicle, basically the difference with that term is a vehicle has multiple awardees. One of the big ones that just got awarded recently was the IT1 T4ING. That I think the award was in the summer or spring. Some of those vehicles are government-wide, like the GSA schedule one. That is a rolling admission, so that one you could apply for and get on at any time. Some of the others that GSA has, like Oasis and Alliant and CIOSP4, which has been delayed, those have specific dates. NASA is getting ready to put out its SOUP number 6. So it's a 6th iteration of the SOUP contract. That's SEWP, not soup, like the kind you eat. And that's for also technology. So, and they all get posted, all the vehicles get posted on SAM as announcements. Some of the big ones will have industry days and pre-solicitation meetings and briefings. So you will, if you're paying attention to your customer, you will get wind of it in advance because it's a lot of money and a lot of market research that goes into it. Vets, Vet2, I don't know. Vets is a GSA schedule, so you could get instructions for that on the GSA. Okay. Say for telehealth, telemedicine, or virtual care. Yeah, so same process. So instead of lodging, we do telehealth and active and inactive, and you have all of the same opportunities.
Hey, Anna, there's a question in the Q&A. Says, will the database of VA have info on industry days or matchmaking events from VA to small businesses who are SDBU OSB?
So we have an event list, an events calendar. Oh, I can actually show you something that works, and that is really cool. Vetbiz.va.gov. So what we have done, one of the initiatives for January, which Curtis and Wendy did most of the hard work here, is we combined all of our VA OSDBU events onto one calendar. So you go to vetbiz.va.gov. Vetbiz, if somebody could put that in the chat, please. And you scroll down the page, all of our events that are both training classes, but also opportunity sessions are listed on here. For example, ignore the 12 o'clock. For some reason, they all say 12 a.m. They're not actually at 12 a.m. But at the end of this month, there is I'm just giving you one here. That's VH, Veterans Health Administration, Procurement and Logistics Office, Region 15. So that's the central opportunity session. There's the link to what they're looking to buy, the NAICS codes, and register for the events. Those are all on WebEx as well. We do those sessions with some of the prime contractors as well. We had one with Microsoft. There's one with Schneider Electric. So if you're selling electric type services, there's one with Dun & Bradstreet happening on Thursday. And as well as the training. So whenever we reschedule this one, it'll show up on the calendar as well. This should have our data mining. So we'll be talking about GSA next month on the 12th of March as well. Another way to look at industry days, because VA and other agencies host them, not just with VA OSDBU, but they do publish that information on SAM also. So if you go to SAM.Gov and you're searching for opportunities, I keep going back to this website, hoping it keeps working. And with the contract opportunities search, actually, I shouldn't have done it that way. You do search. You could set up with contract opportunities. You could set up a search for the notice types to be sources sought, and also special notices. When an agency posts us an industry day or pre-solicitation, it'll be either sources sought or RFIs going here, or an event announcement will usually be a special notice. So you could even save a search of special notices from VA or special notices that have to do with a certain NAICS code. Actually, do not search for special notices with a certain NAICS code, because we are limited to only putting in one NAICS code. So if you put in one that isn't our top one, you're going to miss it. So do not narrow it down by NAICS codes if you're looking for event announcements. You want broader than that. All right. I'm trying to scroll through the chat here. Oh, we are out of time. I'm happy to scroll through the chat for a couple of other questions. The website for calendar for upcoming events is vetbiz.va.gov/ actually go va.
I added it in the chat. The link to subscribe and the link to where Anna just posted the events. It's in the chat. When you click on it, that pops up saying external site. That's something from Cisco WebEx, basically saying, hey, wherever you go there, it's on you, not on us. So if you click on that, it will take you, wait a second, let me.
Oh, you know what? It's events, not event.
Oh, yeah. When I copied and pasted, it was the date. Add an S at the end of it. I apologize, everyone, when I copy and paste it.
Yes,
okay,
it does work.
In there. And there was a question about the chat. How do I save it? You're not able to save the chat on your own. And to be honest with you, the information that we communicated today was verbally. So what you usually see in the Q&A anyway is just us saying the question was answered verbally. It's a small amount where we're actually responding during this session today. But if you would like a copy, please send us an email. I placed the information in the chat, OSDBU, strat, TRATCOMM @va.gov. I'm sorry about that, Anna.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Yeah, so if you want to save the chat, I think you could do a screenshot. Thanks, Anjanette. The other thing you could do, I think, is you could just highlight it and it'll do copy paste and scroll and get it that way. I think you could see me kind of trying to do it. I don't know if it's visible or not.
No, it's not showing on our end. We still see the VetBiz.
Yeah, it won't show because it's part of the WebEx app. All right.
Oh, there was something, I'm sorry, and I guess we'll make this the last one. How many months behind is FPDS showing information if you're not a government agency?
I would say about 3. For DoD, it's at least 3. For operational security. For everybody else, we do our data input like quarterly. So it's about 3 months or so. And there was another question from April. How long does it typically take for solicitation to be released after pre-solicitation? It really depends. It depends on how good is the market research. What is the deadline for that contract expiration, and can this be extended or not? Is there funding available? So there's not even a rule of thumb that I could share with you. It just varies. Some agency, it could take years. You could always send a note to the contracting officer, give it 2 or 3 weeks after the pre-solicitation, or after you submitted a sources sought response. Say, hey, we're strongly interested. We submitted a response. Do you have an indication of dates? They may be able to share something, but there's no rules at all. Research companies whose 8A is expiring, I believe you can do it in DSBS, the Dynamic Small Business Search, which is dsbs.sba.gov. Okay. And search criteria for services requested, such as information technology. Do not search for information technology. It's entirely too broad. You could do search criteria for components of that, like networking, I don't know, identity access management, firewall, WebEx. So be as specific as you can and use those as keywords. Even specific technologies like Amazon Web Services or Azure Cloud or DevSecOps or Ruby on Rails, whatever those are. The more specific you are, the better it is. I mean, you'll find a million things that is information technology, and you'll be wading through it until 2026. Do not recommend. I will let you guys go. We will reschedule this, and I think we'll be able to send you an invitation to everybody that attended here to the new one, in case you want to do a round 2.
That is correct.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate everybody's patience and good humor with us, and we'll try again. All right. Have a great afternoon. Thanks, Curtis. Thanks, Wendy.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.